Now, speaking of other restrictions that Riot has that actually aren't mandated by the government, they only hire midwits. So they make decisions, Monty, like taking something like the all LEC voting, which remember, that is the League of Legends equivalent to being like all NFL, all pro, which by the way, those are actually considered in theory, they're not now because it's a media thing, but they used to be considered, by the way, one of the main metrics of your career. Because in theory, like that goes year on year on year. So you can show who has the most consistency, you can show how great a player was over his career. So famously, for example, I'll give you one that a lot of people might not know. Drew Brees has never been first all-pro in the NFL, for example, because as great as he was, he played in an era with all really great quarterbacks. So the reason I bring this up is, for League of Legends, it was already very scoffed because we all know, I've always complained every other bloody split that like the pros and the coaches normally sort of rig the voting by, manipulating if they don't want their rival to get it or if they want their teammate to win. There's a bunch of fuckery you can do. Well, it's worse now. If people probably saw in the spring that when the LEC did the all LEC voting, because the fans themselves now do the voting, in spring they voted every single G2 member the first team. It was just all G2. And now in summer, the first team is Caps, Reckless, Mickey, so the middle to the bottom half of the map, and then just the Rogue top half of the map. Zero Mad Lions players in the first team. Zero for like just only G2 and Inspired Rogue, basically. Yeah. So what do you think of this, Mike? Because I've sort of implied there, regardless of the names, that we could get into the specific details and the weeds. But what I hate of the idea there is like, a fan contest is very different from something that's going to be like a historical record, Like if this was just some sort of weird fan award, like a favourite player of the year or whatever, that's fine. Vote Reckless that 50 seasons in a row if you want. But the idea that like you actually essentially are saying like, we're going to put this as the historical record of who the best player was. Like having fans do that feels a bit off, mate. I mean, for a start off, that means in theory, and this is a terrible scenario you can have, by the way, what if you were the least liked player, but you were the best player? You're never going to get a fucking award, are you? Like, I'll give you a quick example. Here's a very quick example of this. In 2014, in China, EDG with Nami won everything except something like one online tournament, Monty. They won like 8 or 9 lands, including both LPL splits. So people don't know, at the end of the year, the fans voted like fucking OMG or something like the team of the year because it was a popularity contest. And so they even could actually say, actually, fuck you. The other team that didn't even win anything is the team of the year. Like, I don't want to live in that world. Like, that's like I'm in some sort of totalitarian 1984 shit. Like, I know the real team. No, Thorin, the real third best top laner was Wonder. No, please, not the Rats. Yes, it was Wonder. Let me go, please. What is this? What do you think on this topic?
I think it is egregious because, like you say, it does mess with history, right? And so, unless you know in the future that this was a fan vote, right? And it's also the wording and the language that they use, because as far as I know, almost every sport that I'm aware of doesn't have all pro as a fan vote. So, for example, in the NFL, you have the Pro Bowl, which is a fan vote, which is a game that the players play in. And that is well known. And also
the equivalent of it, right? That's for fans just vote. Because famously, in fact, that's the best example, Monty, right? Because obviously, famously, if you're a legendary player, even when you are washed, you get voted in that because it's just a popularity contest, isn't it?
Yeah, and what that is for people who don't follow American football is the Pro Bowl is a fan vote where they send players to go play a game in,
right?
Yeah, they play a game in Hawaii basically. Yeah, before the Super Bowl, basically right before the Super Bowl. So the players in the Super Bowl don't, even if they're voted, don't go because they have a game to play. Nobody ever really cares or watches it or whatever. It's kind of useless. But it's not like the all-pro voting is accepted as a fan vote. And I mean, we have enough problems in esports with people trolling these votes anyway. And I also think to have all pro done via casters and press and coaches and players, right, in LCS, but now done by fans in LEC is just super confusing because they're using the same language. So I guess that's my primary issue with it, is I feel like it's already fucked up because people troll it, even if they're professionals. And so in that case, I think it's even more confusing when the fans do it. But it is offensive that we have to like look at this. And I mean, I don't see how like Mickey is first all pro support, right? That's kind of crazy.
I appreciate though that it has revealed in mad detail that I never would have expected, Monty. It means if you think logically that there never actually were any Fnatic fans, dude. They were just all Reckless fans the whole time. That's the meme. That's me in front of a fucking globe of just Reckless the whole time. And then you're behind me with the gun, and I'm like, what? It was Reckless fans the whole time. Like, always was. Like, how? What? Where are all the Fnatic fans? What the fuck? You were just all 14-year-old Fnatic fangirls the whole time. So now we've combined you with G2 fans, just made an abomination that just wins every award, apparently. What? Also, by the way, like, I know, like, of all the players as well, like, dude, why is Wonder on there? What? Why is he third top laner? What sort of a reach is that? Because that's always the fear when it's a popularity contest, is as you see here, every popular player pretty much got on the top 3, you know?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It you know, especially for how close a lot of the LEC was this season as well. Like, Misfits was in first place for a lot of the split.
Misfits and Fnatic, the first half were like the leading teams.
Yeah. So you're telling me that Misfits has 0 players in the top 15.
Like, even Razork can't get on this list. He's had no chance. No,
Razork was great.
Nah.
like
imagine it.
Especially if you're looking at the entire season, because I wouldn't think that. I think Bwipo turned it on for the playoffs, but I think that Razork certainly believes to be there more than Bwipo. That's
a reach and a half, isn't it? Like, if anything, the whole reason we're giving credit to Bwipo is it's actually mad that he's been able to do all these performances against the real junglers, like a really, you know, competitive class of people. He's not himself a top jungler. Come on.
Because the problem is, Thorin, if I were to not have watched any of these games and I were just to look at the All-Pro and then I were to look at the standings, you have to draw the following conclusion about Misfits. They are vastly more than the sum of their parts because they don't even have one top 15 player in the entire league. So therefore, I am forced to draw the conclusion that their teamwork is absolutely extraordinary. Right?
Yeah.
So it does fuck with history quite a bit, and it is super disappointing for that reason. I think like I think maybe they might change it for next year, but the problem with doing that is that if you keep the language the same, then you're just changing the way in which things happen. Which, if you're looking at All Pro throughout the years, you don't know which one was voted on by whom or the significance of that All Pro. So I just think you can't call it All-Pro. They never should have called it All-Pro. They should have had a completely different name that implied the fan reaction to it and not fucked with it.
Especially because, like I said, like put it this way: if this is fine, then logically, let's do it with all the awards. Like, I'm really need to be sat here, and it needs to be like, oh, and here we are. It's 2031. Reckless has just won his 15th straight MVP. He hasn't even actually been playing as an active player for most of this split. He's just the sub player, but he's won again. Another MVP for Reckless. Like, right? But if you guys think this is the fucking future, I'd rather just have experts do it and live and die by what they pick, you know.
I mean, I'm not thrilled with what experts typically do in League of Legends either. So many, I mean, I'm glad they were...
Though, I will take it over fans. You know, I will, if we go by stages, you know. They have their own issues, certainly. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.